Record. All right, welcome to the March Idea Share from Key Ministry. My name is Beth, and I'm joined here by Catherine Boyle, who's our Director of Mental Health Ministry at Key Ministry. And gosh, it's March already. So that means that we are closing in on 1 year since our churches were shut down. And we are now at, I mean, even looking around this group, I know for a fact that we're in very, very different, varying degrees of our churches being reopened. Because I know, like, I'm looking at Diana from Texas. Yours is like wide open, or at least it was wide open. I'm looking at Bronwyn from California. Yours not so much. And we've got a little bit of everything in between. So our goal today is just to, support and encourage each other, talk about what's working, what's not, what questions we have. And so I will open it up to anybody who would like to either update us on what's going on or situations that you're having. I think we need to kind of talk about what Easter is going to look like this year, because I'm sure your church is already pretty much trying to figure out what that's going to look like. So would anybody like to start us off? Yes. Oh, I got a couple hands. So I saw Meekins and then Diana.
I am chomping at the bit here. It has been one full, he laughs at me. It's been one very full and wonderful month since we all were together last time. So we decided to do this family craft mailing to the people that are part of our ministry. And so we sent out, and Valentine's was right in there. So that was very, very helpful. So what we did was we sent out the supplies for the families to make a family love poster. So we sent them stickers and we sent, a bunch of other things, and so that they could, do that together as a family. And then we asked them to send pictures, and they did. And it was so fun to see all the pictures. They were thrilled. They were absolutely thrilled. Plus, it came in the midst of like 3 weeks of ice storms. So even if you could get to church, you couldn't get to church. So it was one of those things that, because we've been talking about this for so long and we've been doing things because of the pandemic, it was a natural, easy way to just keep people in touch, even during ice storms. So that was a really cool thing. And then we have our monthly Zoom with parents. We're still doing that because we don't have the childcare that we used to have for our monthly meetings. Hopefully that will open up soon. I would really be happy about that. Our Facebook for parents is very vibrant right now. People are coming in and they're sharing the struggles that they're going through, and they're going through a lot of struggles. These families are really, really having a hard time because their worlds are so upside down, and they have been for a year, and they're coming back and then the pulling back, and it's such an uproar for these kids. So the parents are supporting one another. That is what we had hoped to create with this Facebook group for parents, is that they could really support one another, and they're doing it. So, just creating an atmosphere where they can come, they can feel like they belong, they can feel like it's safe, they can share their struggles, they can vent a little bit if they need to, and then we bring it back to the positive because God is positive. And then, so that's been really helpful. New families are coming to Lynchburg, and so cool, they're getting plugged in right away. And that has been a huge, I think I've gotten emails from leaders of ministries for at least 4 or 5 new families that have come to the area in the last month, and been able to reach out to them and say, look, this is what we've got, we love to have you come. So that's been cool. And they have jumped on the Facebook group right away, and they've shared their stories. So they have felt like they have jumped right into a community that welcomes them, which is, I learned this from you all. You know this. We learned this from you all. Y'all. So thank you. Y'all. Yeah, that's what they say. Y'all down here. And then our daughter has a church in Maryland that she's a part of right now. And they've been, slowly opening up, and they do a lot of social distancing, but they rented a movie theater for their girls ministry, high school girls ministry. And she showed us a picture of it yesterday. And those girls look so happy that they could be together, they could watch a movie together. They're like miles apart from each other, but they're still in the same building and enjoying that together. So that was really cool. And then the other thing about the hybrid ministry that we've been talking about for a year, and that even when we all get back, we should still have that Zoom component or some kind of an online component. Well, during the ice storms, there were no adult Sunday school classes. And so our life group got to meet because we had that component. So there, we didn't miss a beat. We just kept going and everybody came in and we had a great time of fellowship. And we got back, we're like, oh, it's good to see your face in person, you know? So, and now I'm going to stop, but I had to tell you all that because it was so much cool stuff.
I love it. And Julie, thank you. That was a great way to kick off our month for sure. So thank you for the happy news, the encouraging news. I do have a question. The Facebook group, is that something that started once the pandemic hit, or did you have that beforehand?
We actually had it before. So some of the people in the support group, it started off really small. So it started off with just the people that came in person and they wanted to have also a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And now it has really grown into, I think there's over 100 people in there, and they're all local people except for one or two families that moved away. They weren't local and they moved away and they still want to be part of the group. So yeah.
All right. Well, that is awesome. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Julie and Tom?
Yes. I do. Could you tell me again about the gift? The first thing you said?
Yes. Yeah, so we did a mailing and we sent out all of the supplies that the families would need to make a family love poster for Valentine's Day. So we sent the poster board, but it was like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of poster board. And we sent stickers. We also put in there puzzles for the families to do together, paper puzzles, all paper. So it was a flat envelope, which was easier on our mailing, and they were thrilled.
Cool. Love it. All right. Well, thanks for getting us kicked off this morning, depending on where you are. All right, Diana, what's going on in your world?
Well, there's a lot going on. I think this group and the pandemic all was in preparation for a couple of weeks ago with the bad weather that we had here in San Antonio, which left many with no power for many days and no water. I was lucky at my home to have power most of the time and no water. The church had no power. And during that week, there were some major pipe bursts and flooding. And so a week ago today, I was down in tears. The wing that hosts our sensory rooms, the two of them in our classroom, completely wiped out. They're closed. So we were just getting ready to go, excuse me, back to classroom for our Zoom class. So we're continuing Zoom for that. Okay. So that's a plus that's already in place. And we're just the whole church, everyone's coming together. Everyone loves this ministry. So we are in the mode of making do. So we are moving into the toddler hallway and using toddler rooms, buying new things. So last week we were closed, but as you said, Beth, our church is fully open, but now we're fully open with loss of a huge portion and I think it's close to 2 million in damages.
Oh, wow.
So anyhow, our families are flexible and understanding. And so some of them have not come back. So that's a positive that God has kind of provided, because if we would have been a year ago and this would have happened, it would have been very devastating. But because we're only back to maybe a third of our families, we can move forward from here. So just pray for us as we get into this. Thank you for all you guys and all your positivity, encouragement, and all the stuff that we've done, because we may be doing some mail outs. We may be doing some things like that to our families now that find it hard to come back into when they were used to big, spacious swings and spaces that now they're literally in a room. Yeah. So till we get going. So anyways.
Wow, that is a lot. But, Diana, you and the Meekins both pointed out that you have been able to quickly pivot and continue to kind of do what you're doing because of the pandemic. So you both had weather related major issues, and yet, I mean, my goodness, if we have learned nothing in this last year, we have learned how to adapt and carry on, right?
Exactly.
So, wow. Yep. Well, that's a big loss for the building, but eventually that will get.
But that would have happened. That had nothing to do with the pandemic. So, like I said, if we would have had that last year, would have been so much worse. So we're moving forward, and with all these ideas, it's going to be great. So,
good. All right, Bronwyn.
Hey, so out in California, we've been doing most all of our ministry outside, and it sounds like we're going to continue that through the summer. And I mean, fortunately, we can do that. We have the facility to do that, and some community areas out here to do that. And it's actually been really fun. We've been doing it for children's ministry, for respite. We do like one family at a time. We've been doing it for youth ministry as well. And we've noticed and we do it for preschool too. We do it across the board. There's fewer behavior issues that come up. We've had, just because like there's more space, sound kind of disperses. We're not all in a room. Pre-pandemic, we had a classroom that was made for maybe like 12 to 16 preschoolers, where we had to have about 30 third and fourth graders plus the 6 volunteers. So it was so packed, but now it's like all open. So we've just seen a whole lot we've been able to build these like really cool things outside for kids to play on. And even like the bigger youth kids, like we'll sit out there for a small group and they like it. So outdoor ministry has been really, really fun for us. And I don't think we would have gotten there, had it not been that we were forced to be out there. So we've been thinking of, ways, looking into the budget for this next year, how do we kind of continue that? And we found it's pretty inclusive, like kids that maybe were overwhelmed indoors. Or sorry, my preschoolers like singing back here. Kids who are maybe overwhelmed indoors, or kids who found it intimidating maybe to come into that space. It was really easy for them to enter into a bigger outdoor space where there's just there's an active activity, there's a quiet activity, there's an art activity. So I think it's really kind of reinvented ministry in the ways that we are hoping to do it. I mean, in the winter, it's a little bit tough. We have to remind everyone, okay, bring your jackets. I mean, we're like, pretty weak out here compared to you guys. Yeah, compared to you guys, we're kind of weak out here. We're kind of weak out here, but for us, get your ski parkas on. It's 40 degrees. So, I
we were wearing shorts last week when it went up to 40. I'm just saying. Yes,
I mean, so it's just, I don't know, like all the things that have been really, really hard, and I think it's really given families who are uncomfortable coming inside. Okay, we can be outside, we could be social distance, and so I think we've had a lot higher participation than if we just waited around for a church to open, which who knows?
Right.
On the governor's spectrum of when churches can open, even like the most inclusive tier of COVID, churches are only at 50% capacity. So we have no idea what that even is. But we've been able to do it. And thank you guys. Lots of you on here have given me such wonderful ideas on how to do things, and we've modified some stuff that you guys have done. And so this has been just a really cool time of connection. So thank you.
I agree. So show of hands, how many of you who Sunday morning is part of your gig, how many of you are already thinking about doing some outdoor things, maybe like this summer, like we did last year? I know we definitely are. I think Allison is on here. She's on my second screen, I think, but there she is. Okay. So some of the drawing obstacle courses on the blacktop, like some of the ideas that you all shared last spring and summer, we're totally doing again. Yeah. Having that outdoor option is great. Barb.
I have a question. So how are you guys preventing elopement? So one of the reasons we haven't done outside, we haven't had to do outside because our church is open. But if we were to do outside with our special needs ministry, our fear has always been elopement because we have several elopers. So what? So we're on
So for us, we have a preschool on our site as well. And we had to reopen preschool all outdoors. So we rented a fence, one of those rent a fence. It's not like the prettiest looking thing, but we've all gotten used to it. That's just really made it possible to do anything. So we rented a fence and we've gotten creative. We also have interior fencing that you can take down. It's like not as pretty as the rent fence, but it's smaller and you could take it down and we could make different size spaces. I mean, that took most all of summer to figure out how to do that. And we had to do it in pretty short order when we reopened school. But that is an idea, if you could split it with other ministries, for us, we're selling it to the church is like, hey, like this is a benefit to everyone. We're doing our social distance Easter egg hunt in there for Easter. So that's what we've done. Otherwise, yes, people be running all over the place.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
I'll jump in on the elopement part. We host a huge summer camp every summer. We'll be back in person again. We have our campers outside throughout the day doing our outside games and different events. We'll have 160 plus kids outside throughout the day. And so honestly, we've had very little problems with elopement, even though we have a ton of runners with us. We have ages 3 and up with that. What we've done, one, those who are elopers that you already know them ahead of time, we make sure we have, a couple people around them to know. We have people kind of broken in teams, and then we've got a couple leaders overseeing that. Then we've got a couple people outside just kind of watching as well. And radios, everyone's got every team and then leaders have radios, and that's really helped us with it. We're also on the corner of 2 extremely busy streets. So again, those are extremely important, but we've had, knock on wood, 0 problems with it. We'll occasionally have a runner, but they literally don't get that far. They don't even get to the asphalt usually before, we're able to catch up with them, even though they're super fast. So even though that was a fear, it turned out not to be that much, because if you're able to have enough programming going on for them and keeping them involved, they're going to be okay. So that's the whole key. If you got a lot of downtime and where they're getting bored, that's where you're going to have problems, and they're going to be running. So as long as you got the programming and keeping their attention, you'll be okay. Once you end up with just a ton of downtime, yeah, you'll be in trouble.
Good points.
I would add too, like some of our families that have the elopement, we have like a different form for them to fill out with runners. And then we have a couple of families that their kiddos have those harnesses. And so like if mom comes in saying, hey, we've had a bad morning, they usually have the harness on. So those have been really helpful. I mean, and because then I don't know if everybody has seen what I'm talking about, but they literally have like probably a 3 feet length leash. I hate that word, but I can't think of any other word. And those have been super helpful for some of our kiddos.
Michelle, would you be willing to share your form that you have? We do have a couple of elopers in our ministry, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to make sure we don't ever have a problem, and how to train our volunteers on how to handle it. So any information you have, I would definitely be interested in seeing, if you don't mind.
I will put my email in
Or Michelle, if you want to send it to me, I can provide the link with the,
okay.
I can post it with the video.
Okay. Yeah. It's just like a half form that they fill out in addition to some of our other paperwork.
All right. And the harness is getting a lot of love in the chat. Apparently there are many moms on here who've used it with their own children. So.
And there's cute ones out there, we have one that the little guy's like a monkey. So his monkey has a name and everything. So
that's awesome. All right. I'm looking around. We're on 2 screens worth of Zoom boxes now. So like wave your hand wildly and I'll go back and forth between the screens to see if anybody is ready to talk. And if not, I'm going to let me just look one more time. Okay. Let's talk about Easter. I'm just curious. So traditionally in a lot of our churches, Palm Sunday and Easter, we get maybe people who aren't normally attending our churches. This may or may not impact if you have a special needs ministry, maybe not that so much, but what are your church's plans for Easter? Does anybody want to share?
I can if nobody, only
Yeah,
because we
where,
just
there,
sort of.
Bronwyn. Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
only just like.
I was scrolling and I didn't see it. Okay, go ahead.
So we're gonna be outside. That's what we're doing. And so like I said, we have that fence that kind of splits this giant grass area that's attached to our building. So on one side of the fence, we've actually been meeting a little bit outdoors with the whole congregation. We have it'll be like social distance Easter, so we have these big X's spray painted like right on the grass. So people will come with their families and stay in that area. The services are a little bit shorter, and there's more interaction, I think, like with what's happening up front. And then we're gonna, in between each service, we're gonna have a social distance Easter egg hunt in that fenced area. And so we have a large block of apartments that kind of encircles our space on the outside of our parking lot. And we've invited them. We're gonna put flyers out there to invite them. We're gonna invite the community. And we think, even if they come just in the middle of the services for an Easter egg hunt, because we're probably gonna be one of the only groups doing it, like, hey, they're here. So we're doing that. And then we have these bags of kind of Easter swag, I guess, that's gonna be going out to all of our kids, ministry folks, volunteers deliver that. And for our respite and inclusion families, they're gonna get an extra thing from our respite and inclusion team all around Easter, all kind of different, like the Easter story. We found these things on Amazon. It's called Bendy Jesus. It's like a Jesus action figure. And we sent, we're sending like some stories on paper that kids can act out, like the story with Bendy Jesus. It's like loaves and fishes or whatever we decided. So yeah, I think we know that like some people will not want to come in person, even though it's outside. But we also know our community at large wants to come and do something. So we're trying to make space for all of that.
I love it. I love that you're thinking about reaching out into the community, and like truly this is the time where people are maybe receptive to attending church if they don't, normally attend. So cool. And I love, I'm gonna have to check out Bendy Jesus for sure.
I want to see Bendy Jesus.
Yeah.
I want to see him.
I did have 300 of them. Like
there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my kids took the extras into different corners of our home. But yes, I could send it. I'll find the Amazon link. I think I could send it. It's kind of funny, but so far kids have that's been the highlight, is Bendy Jesus.
Okay.
Did you get him on Amazon?
I think we did. I think
I've seen him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all good. Like Bendy Jesus is gonna sell out because we're all gonna go check him out. All right. Barbara has something she would like to. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Bendy Jesus sounds great. I love the idea of acting out the Bible stories. I wanted to tell you all about a curriculum I developed that's on my website. It's multicultural. It's got a focus on communion, but it goes through God's big story, like creation, fall, redemption, and with a focus on Holy Week. So there's coloring, devotionals, for each day of Holy Week. Here's one I colored in. And then lots of activities. So there's our participant guide. And then this is the leader's guide. And it's got coloring pictures with people with disabilities and visual icons for a schedule. I think y'all know what I mean. And then I've also got, here's the visual icons that you can have people cut out and like put on the leader so that people can help participate in leading. And then I also have some full color images that can be used that are on my website as digital or print available. So
awesome.
Great.
Can you remind us of what the website is?
Oh yeah, I'll type that into everybody.
Yeah, go ahead and type it in, and then I'll say it out loud for the people that are watching the recording later.
Yeah, it's barbarabielen.com.
Yelland is BJELL.
Yeah, I'm typing it in right now.
All right, thank you for sharing that. And so I encourage everybody to check that out. Also in the chat, Bronwyn shared the link, the Amazon link for Bendy Jesus, and Kathy shared that Bendy Jesus is also available at Oriental Trading. I'm going to see how many times I can say Bendy Jesus today. And the website that with the curriculum that Barbara just shared is Barbara, so BARBARA, Bielen, BJELLAND.com. All right. Who else has something to share? I'm looking.
This is Patrick, calling from Rochester, and the COVID numbers are down enough here that I've been able to start getting out to visit people I support in person. I'm one of the chaplains at Heritage Christian Services here in Rochester, so it's been nice to be able to visit with people in person again and be with folks. So
I'll bet they were happy to see you too.
very, very much so. I can only get to one site per day, but that definitely keeps me plenty busy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. Yeah, we're I think things will slowly be opening up here in Rochester and upstate New York. Church is still being done on Facebook Live, but eventually things will open back up.
All right, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So I don't know about any of the rest of you, but our church did a night to shine or last month, I guess, and it was awesome. And yes, it was all virtual, but we were able to provide that like something that we hadn't done in the past, and that was we made deliveries to every single one of our guests. We did yard signs. We kind of really upped the goodie bag and delivered that. And it was just really cool. So, as we think to next year, there's definitely a piece of that we want to keep, even though we hope that it'll be an in-person event next year. So does anybody else want to share anything about Night to Shine? You did it? Yeah, Al.
I was part of a couple different ones. One did a drive-through that was really good. And yeah, the families really appreciated being in person for that. So that was really good. And then the next week I was part of a virtual Night to Shine. I was a buddy for that one, so I got to be inside. We had everyone introduced virtually and saw everyone's decorations. All that was really cool. And the Tebow Foundation, they did an outstanding job with what they did. The red carpet was amazing, how they did that.
That was my favorite part, was the red carpet.
That was really good. And they had a lot of stars on there, including Charles Barkley, the basketball player, I was surprised, but a lot of musicians and things like that. So it was outstanding what they did, that program. I had no idea what a virtual one would look like, but it was amazing what they did there.
Yeah. So Haley's asking if we could share the outline of Night to Shine this year. Ellen, do you want to do that, or would you prefer not to? It's up to you.
When you say outline, Haley, what exactly do you mean?
Sorry, I sent it in the middle of typing. So I'm trying to do a virtual dance this year, and I'm like struggling trying to figure out like what are we actually going to do. Like we could dance for some of it, but just trying to figure out like what the hour looks like, or hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a hit, and we didn't really know what it was going to look like several months ago, and the Lord just provided some really exciting ideas. We learned a lot from all of you out there, from being on these calls and just hearing the need and brainstorming. So I'd be happy to send you some tips if you want to share your email address with me, and just kind of give you a bullet point of the things that we covered. And then a lot of the creative ideas, like Beth just shared, of what the churches did on their own that really blew us out of the water. But the Shine Through was really a big hit.
So the Shine Through was like a drive-through that a lot of, not all the churches, but a lot of churches did.
Yes.
So to provide a little bit of that in-person celebration, and yet keeping everybody separated. So
right,
and they stayed in their cars for that.
And a lot of them had big red carpets that, like here in Jacksonville and all throughout, that you actually drove on in frames for pictures. They had dance teams, cheer teams, bands, DJs, all kinds of things, but also the virtual options too, with having a buddy virtually. But the dancing was a big hit, and having the music through a video, and even the dance moves, it was still a lot of fun. My son participated and had one of the best nights of his life, stayed in his suit for 6 hours, wore his shoes and socks. It was a miracle. He loved it. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate all of you who are involved. I mean, it was a greater success than we could even begin to imagine. So God is just so good.
So one of the things that was a huge hit with our guests was the yard signs. And, so, you could picture the foam core or whatever you call it, yard signs. And ours said something like, home of an honored guest, night to shine. I don't know, something along those lines. The comments that we received on the yard signs were like so convicting to us. So one parent said how meaningful the sign was for her daughter, that the siblings, had always had, like, for their sports or whatever, they had always had their yard signs, but that this one was for her, and how meaningful that was. And so, like, we've decided, like, we don't care what Night to Shine looks like down the road, in person, we hope, blah, blah. There will be yard signs. We are still going to hand deliver yard signs to all of our guests, because that was just really important. So.
And yeah, that was the inspiration behind it, is just being a mom of my son who lives with disabilities, just driving through our neighborhood every day and seeing football, basketball, celebrating championships. He sees those, and he knows that, he knew that maybe I would never get something like that. And so that's really when we kept brainstorming on ways to celebrate these amazing people. That's exactly what inspired it. So I'm so glad that it was a hit.
Yeah. All right, Sylvia.
Yeah, we did a Night to Shine as well, which was a great success. We enjoyed it. It was an interesting pivot from what we are used to with a Night to Shine. So everything seemed to be like, okay, today is a new thought. Let's invent this. And tomorrow is a new thought. Let's do this. We had a virtual. We didn't do a drive-through because I don't like cold weather. So we kind of prayed and believed God for what was going to happen. And we had an ice storm 2 days before. So thank goodness we did not plan to do a drive-through. But we did a virtual activity where we had breakout rooms where they could go into, like, photo booth. There was a dance room. It was just real exciting, just being able to do the gift drop-offs. We had packages where we did gift packages for the parents and the families, gifts for the participants, snack bags, and a decorate the hall, where they could do whatever they wanted to. And it was just remarkable how the parents participated and supported. Like, we sent a few balloons and some streamers and stuff, and they went out and decorated with balloon arches and all kinds of stuff. The pictures that they sent were just amazing, how they engaged and embraced the whole idea and the thoughts that we thought enough of them to continue the activity and stuff. And Miss Angel, who's on the call down on my screen down at the bottom, who is our tech person, was just so excited about setting up everything. And we had virtual backgrounds that said Night to Shine, and everybody could project those. And it was just great. Adventure and a learn. Look, Angel has put hers up, Miss Angel.
Oh, very nice. Love it. Love it.
So it was interesting, this whole thing, because our church is not open, and again, it probably won't be open although our numbers look like they're going down and we're getting more people who are taking the vaccine. So it might be September, maybe, before we begin to think about doing anything. But life is different, because even with Night to Shine, we had 5 out-of-state people. We had people from Pennsylvania, Virginia, Akron, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana joining. And that's the beauty of this whole virtual experience, is that we don't have to, it's not bound by geography, that we can go many places. We had a family from Florida, and they've been joining our Sunday school class. Our Sunday school classes have expanded. We now have a children's class, a youth and young adult class, and an adult class. We're starting Tuesday night Bible study with them. We had a virtual buddy break on Saturday, and Angel dressed up as a bumblebee. And so we are just learning how to do some really fun things with our parents. We do one-on-one virtual respite, where the parents and we're increasing that. So we're inviting all of our volunteers to participate, take a VIP, and spend a year with them, where we send them cards. We do all kinds of things for them, because it's going to be forever before we get back together again. But that's okay. We're learning how to adjust, and we're learning how to just navigate the emotional, social nuances of what we have to do in this particular environment.
Yeah, and Sylvia, thank you for sharing. You're such an excellent example of how, like, the church isn't about the building. I mean, the amount of, like, how you continue to foster those relationships is just amazing. And the creative ways that you are really pouring into parents and families. I just love it. So thank you. It'll be so weird when you're actually back in the building.
We're not trying to go back in the building.
Haley, you have a question?
Not a question. I don't know why I clicked the thing way too early, but I have something to share if it's helpful. I work with Young Life, so I'm not on church staff, but we can't meet in person either, and so we do drop-offs every month, and so we'll drop off. It's mostly game supplies for our Zoom calls, so that our friends can come to the calls with something on their end too. And it's been the most simple things, but it's really made a difference and gotten a lot more kids to come. And for Valentine's Day, we had their game supplies, but we also gave them like a little plastic necklace, and it was just like the easiest thing, but they were all so excited, and some of them, or one of them, like still wears his, and just like to have something to connect like across the screen was super helpful. And other than that, just like having their phone numbers and like texting them and calling them and just being a part of their lives has been really cool, and showing up for parents as well. So yeah, like really finding some way to connect through the screen has really changed things, and even brought more people who wouldn't come like before the pandemic. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I want to kind of reiterate something that you just brought up, and you mentioned calling people and texting people. And I was talking with a parent recently who was kind of feeling a little bit abandoned by her church. You know, we come up with all these like great ways we can do hybrid ministry, and we're talking about all these really cool things that we can do, but sometimes we need to remember just to pick up the phone and make the phone call, and to continue the relationships that way, to let families know that they are not forgotten, they have not been abandoned. You know, we see you, and sometimes really just picking, like old school, picking up the phone is a great way to do that. So thank you for bringing up the phone calls.
Yeah, I had one mom who had COVID, and I was like, oh, she's probably like needs to rest, or she needs time. And she's like quarantined in a room in her house, and all she wanted to do was talk on the phone, and like just to know that like we were there for them. It's like I mean, I haven't done anything for her. I just talked to her on the phone, but I think it makes a bigger difference than
that's what she needed. She needed that connection.
Yeah.
Yes, Julie.
I was very blessed by our daughter Amy has written a book, a devotional book, as a lot of you know. And she was invited to go to the adult special needs Sunday school class to do a book signing because they bought a book for every single person in that class, which was a blessing to everybody. And so Amy went in and she did this book signing. Well, there are, as is true for everybody, people that are not coming back. They're not back yet. And so they made enough books and had Amy sign some extra ones so that they could also do a delivery to those people that weren't able to come so that they could participate in that thing too. So that's really cool.
That's very cool. That I'm actually gonna I might have to do that. Very cool. Kathy is sharing in the chat, for those of you who have gone through reopening, what are 2 things that you didn't think about for safety protocols? We're talking about June 1st, June 1st, our Sunday mornings with those that can wear masks. It will be a hybrid with Zoom as well. So for those of you who are back in the building, what are some things you didn't think about? Yes, Michelle.
Well, one of the things that kind of was a oops moment was making sure all of the departments were on the same page as far as communication with the doors. We had a couple Sundays where we were trying to have limited doors open for traffic flow, but building services wasn't aware of that. So it was like a oops, now what are we going to do? So that kind of got rectified really quick. But as you set up temperature check areas and pattern one-way traffic and stuff, make sure everybody knows what the plan is so you don't have that oops.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I know like in our church, a lot of I'm part of the children's ministry team. And so, we're always kind of about safety and rules anyway. But those bigger decisions are being made by like session, and then it comes down, and it is important that like every staff, every department kind of knows and understands what the rules are, and why they're in place, and what that looks like, specifically for children's ministry or special needs ministry. All right, let's see. Barb, yes.
I think I mentioned this before, but the eye opener for me was really now there's going to be so much hand sanitizer and disinfectants everywhere. And if you have kids with special needs, especially if they're integrated into their age group, you don't realize how those things are out in the room until you see one of your kids grab it and start to like put it in their mouth or really. So communicate in your rooms and with the rooms your kids are going to be in that those need to be put away when they're not in use. So that's my tip.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you learned from experience.
I did. Yes.
All right. We probably have time for one more question or comment. We're already getting to our time limit here. Anybody? I'm scrolling between the screens to see if anybody else is raising their hand. Yes, Diana.
One of the things that we learned when we reopened back in September is the decision had been made, obviously at the top level, that our service times changed so that we had periods of time to clean in between each service on our Sunday mornings. And one of the things for us that, again, with safety and special needs was the elopement issue, is to clearly jump into parents. Sometimes they would want to be here for more than one service, and that we had to close our rooms down and get everybody out to disinfect. So that would be just something to kind of think ahead of, it depending on how you're reopening. But that was just a change. Typically, we would have just had the child signed in, or let us know that they're going to be there for 2 services or whatnot. And so that was a big change for us, was to realize that they have to come back, they have to take them outside, then they have to bring them back again.
Yeah. And something that I that we're kind of wrestling with a little bit. So we're still in the reservation system for Sunday school. We're big church, you can go to, we have enough overflow space, but in children's ministry, it's a reservation system. And there's kind of this fine line between putting your safety protocols in place and making it an obstacle for families to attend church. And so there've been a couple instances where I felt personally like families are struggling because we do have these rules. I have an older mom who really struggles with computers, and it gives her a lot of anxiety. And so to go online and just fill out this reservation form, it's almost a barrier for them to attend. And so, there's some workarounds there, but that's just something that I'm personally kind of struggling with right now. So we need the safety rules in place, and we're going to follow the rules, but realizing that it makes it difficult for families sometimes. So let me read from Barbara in the chat, and then Barb, if you had your hand raised, we'll go to you next. So Barbara's sharing in the chat, again, this is about after reopening, that it's great to have art or photos that include people with disabilities and people of color and images of Jesus with brown skin. So absolutely, yes. I know I use Boardmaker, and I've gone in and edited what Jesus' skin color is on mine to make it more realistic, which is darker than what it was originally in Boardmaker. Barb, do you have something to share?
I was just going to say to your comment about the rules being an obstacle, especially with the RSVP system, because we're still using the same RSVP system at our church. And I don't know if you're doing this or anyone else is doing this, but our children's ministry director actually added in a couple of extra spots that she just reserved for people that just came in for each group. So if she did get people, which we do every week, that are new or couldn't do the computer, we have a little bit of wiggle room, and doesn't completely solve the problem, but it helps it quite a bit.
I was going to piggyback too. I think one of the things to think through is we have room capacities. And so what happens on that Sunday when you have more people going into that room than the capacity limit is? So, I mean, for me personally, I kind of have plan B and C in my head of like what we can do and where we can kind of put people and stuff, but just knowing that it's good to prepare ahead of Sunday, that you might be past that number, especially we're in a season of more families are coming back each week. And so I hit a Sunday, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was right after the ice storm. And I was at capacity in one of my rooms, and I was like, oh, if anybody else comes in today, I'm going to have to put them where? So just being prepared ahead of time that's a reality. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But luckily, we're all so flexible, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
We're good. Kathy, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on that. We're kind of debating on how we're going to do it, because we've got probably 60 adults that are going to want to come back when this opens, and we're not going to have the space to do it. So I was asking if anybody else has had, huge capacities where they have gone every other week, or what, we're struggling with that right now, because they're all going to come back with masks on.
All right, let me read one more thing from the chat, and then I think we're gonna have to wrap up. So Barb is sharing how it's great how newcomers are coming to our churches, which I agree. Even though we don't have everybody back yet, as Kathy just mentioned, people are wanting to come back. So she said it helps to have little invitation cards with service times, et cetera, for people in the congregation to hand out to friends, neighbors, even people they meet at grocery stores or walking outside. Yeah. And I think a lot of churches aren't doing paper right now. But I know that's something that I know our church has used before. And I love that idea, just being able to hand out a card. Haley is sharing that our friends really like the story of God's love for you, which is the same wording as the Jesus Storybook Bible, but without pictures. It's been so helpful for us because it doesn't feel childish to older folks, but is very easy to understand and doesn't stray far from scripture. So thank you. I didn't realize there was another version of the Jesus Storybook Bible. So that's cool. All right, people. Well, that is it for today. Key Ministry. Oh, thank you. Haley's holding it up to the, yep, cool. There are several events going on this month with Key Ministry, several webinars and a roundtable. And so I encourage you to go to keyministry.org/events to check that out. We're going to be having another event coming up, but I can't mention it right now. So stay tuned for that. But thank you again, everybody, for your time today, for sharing, for doing what you're doing in your churches. And we will see you in April.